Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is our Akumu run. We're trying to get the achievement for You Asked For It. We'll also get the achievement for completing it in Nightmare at the same time at the end. We didn't ever run it strictly in Nightmare, but we'll get both those achievements through this run. This video is the start of Chapter 3. Chapter 3, the way I run it, is kind of a longer chapter. It's one of my favorite parts of the game, so I tend to spend a little extra time with it. Because of that, it ran well over an hour length on raw cut video, so we split it into 2 episodes. The first episode here, we're going to clear out most of the village. We're going to get all the way to the point where we can get to the gate. We can walk straight to the gate. We'll leave contacting Dr. Jimenez and the boss fight for the second half for the second video, the second half of the show, if you will. Getting up into the village is pretty much the same as it always is. Did find out a mystery that had been probably hasn't been questioning anybody else, but for me this was a mystery. I kept hearing these guys and I could never figure out where they were. Finally, I looked up and realized that they were the zombies that were chasing you across, that you jumped into the water from.
Shit.
This little walled part of the village is a lot of fun. You can take a lot of different approaches to it. Our tactical approach to it was to burn everybody that we can find. That way they won't wake up later on. Later on, you'll see there's a part where noises and such wake the zombies up, and when the zombies wake up, having these extra zombies in the field of play is a real problem. So we're going to go through and burn them. One thing I want to point out is if you try to burn this guy, you want to be looking up. If you don't look up, then when he drops the match doesn't light him on fire. But these zombies will certainly wake up if you leave them alone, and they will be in your way. You'll see later when we're after we've thrown the gates, how they would be in the way. There's always one that's alive. For me, it was always a grandmother too, one of those old lady zombies that are just so hard to kill. They can be fast too, so you need to be prepared that she's there. We're gonna go through and kill a bunch of zombies, or burn them, and we're going to find a lot of traps that we're going to disarm. There's actually a couple of traps that I probably should have thrown a bottle at to blow up. They kind of wind up in the way later on. Obviously they don't blow up on me. If they blew up on me, you wouldn't be seeing this cut, because this is the cut where we survive. So how long did it take me to come up with this strategy? It didn't take me long to come up with the strategy of burn all the bodies you can beforehand. We learned that in previous challenge runs. But getting through here, there are just slight differences in the way the area is set up. You heard one of the gates close. You can't get out to the rest of can't get past the gated area until after you talk to Dr. Jimenez. It gets to be a little bit of a challenge to clear everything. This is a bomb that you probably could just skip. There's no reason for you to be back here in the future, so it's not really a trap for you. But there's a box back there, and I wanted to see what was in the box. This is the one body I do leave alive, or leave unburned. It's not alive. It doesn't have a head, so you know you're safe. So the early part of this chapter is going to be resource gathering. We're going to go around, pick up jars of goo and any other ammunition that we can find. Ammunition turns out to be a real problem with Akumu. You often find boxes in the same place you would find boxes, but instead of finding, say, 10 handgun shells, you find 2 or 3. And shotgun shells, you're likely to find 1. Same with your sniper rifle. So it winds up being a real problem. It's not currently a problem in the first. Obviously, in the first chapter, you don't use any ammunition at all. In the second chapter, we managed to do it mostly stealth and using the environment. So we're not having a huge crunch on ammunition at this point. because we are trying to get the achievement run, this is a let's play Akumu, if you will, in the sense that this is you're seeing our first successful run through on Akumu. We haven't run through a dozen times and have all the secrets. But what you are seeing is, cherry-picked scenes. I've tried to run it together and cut it. Our general cuts are between saves in the hospital room. When, like, I would go back to the hospital, save, and then go back through the mirror. And then when I die, when I restart at the hospital, I come through the mirror. I can cut in at the mirror because there's a white screen there. It's really easy. So I can make the video kind of seamless, so it looks like it's all one single playthrough. So you get to experience the game as if, you're not experiencing the Akumu sense of it, in the sense that it probably took us, dozens of plays on each chapter to figure out a strategy and know where everything was and know exactly how to get through it. The first part of the village, there's only that one zombie to fight. Other than that, there isn't really any chance of you dying unless you just don't know that a trap's going to be there and step on it or explode it. But in general, I wanted to show you that those gates close and you can't go past that point. So you can't prep the whole battlefield. You can only prep kind of this side of the battlefield. So the goal here is that eventually you're going to go upstairs, see Dr. Jimenez, talk to him. The events that follow that are going to wake all the zombies in the village up. And we want this part to be kind of as close to a safe haven as we can, so that we can always retreat back to here if need be. Specifically because you hear the music playing behind us, that's the save room. And by being able to get to that save room, if we make some progress that we feel was particularly good, we can come back and save. So you'll see me execute that move several times during the course of chapter 3. Save at least periodically. But what you can take away from that statement of how the game's played and on Akumu and our approach to saving and how we cut the video is that you're going to experience it as if it was one long straight cut, one continuous play stream. Take away from that when you play the game, make sure you go back to the save room to save often. There's no reason to not save your progress, because something can come up that you're not expecting at any time and end it. Even just burning a zombie is dangerous, because as you walk up to the zombie to drop the match, if they kick wrong, if they swing their arms wrong, it kills you. I mean, it's not just a push you back for a second, it kills you. So you just want to come back to the save room and save.
December 2004. First day as a detective. My new partner, Myra Hansen, is a real firecracker. Tenacious and no nonsense. My kind of woman. But I gotta watch it around her. She almost caught me checking out her ass today.
Now, we also have an ulterior motive to going back to the save room at least once here, because there'll be new documents in there. So once we are back in the hospital, yesterday on the second chapter, we talked about what the hospital is to us. It's a construct from Leslie. It's a safe room that Leslie, as we were going over the cliff in the ambulance, saw that Sebastian was a possible protector, somebody that could eventually save him, truly save him.
You should find this useful.
But was in distress himself, and Leslie invited him into his safe room here to save Sebastian at that moment.
Missing, KCPD officer Oscar Conley. Disappeared while on patrol. Patrol car found abandoned on the outskirts of town.
This way, please.
Serial killings continue. Police baffled by cause of death. How can there be zero trace of the killer? More bodies found near Elk River community. Residents feel trapped in their homes.
Now, Elk River is the village that we are in on the other side of the mirror. But back to the hospital. So Leslie has created this safe space where, as a patient, it's really familiar to him, but at the same time, it has a sense of a walled security for him. So whenever he's been forced into an excursion into the stem, he's used this sanctuary as a place of refuge, a place to go and hide from Ruvik. That's why he's able to come out of the stem unscathed, untouched. When he saw Sebastian and he realized that maybe Sebastian would be strong
Detective
enough to
Castellanos?
actually save him,
Do you have a key like this? That key will allow you to open this door.
he took a huge gamble. He invited Sebastian into his sanctuary, where Sebastian would be safe. Sebastian was, from all intents and purposes, he thought he was about to die, falling off a cliff into in an ambulance. So he very well could have died
Whenever you need
dropping off that cliff. Sebastian pulled him into his sanctuary with him, invited him in. But by doing that, Sebastian took a gamble, because now the sanctuary isn't purely just Sebastian's. Here's where the map pieces you pick up go. But you notice a difference in what's happening now. So we talked about Nurse Tatiana being kind of the gatekeeper for Leslie. So in Leslie's construct of a safe haven, a place of refuge, he put Tatiana there because Tatiana, as a nurse, an actual nurse at Beacon Hospital, was his only connection of a compassionate human being, somebody who took care of him, cared about him. But she still has kind of the distant, unemotional detachment of a nurse. So he doesn't, I mean, he knows her in kind of from her professional empathy as a nurse. She makes the perfect gatekeeper to determine whether or not Sebastian is actually going to be able to help Leslie. And what you saw in this cutscene into the hospital was Tatiana deciding that he is good for Leslie, and that she brought him into the back rooms of the sanctuary. Now, Leslie wouldn't have any knowledge of what's behind the counter. He's a patient. He would only have been in the rooms or in the lobby at the most. But behind that counter now, that's Sebastian's sanctuary. So Leslie's sanctuary and Sebastian's sanctuary are now merged together. You notice there's a big difference when you walk behind that door, behind the counter. The rooms back there become very police station-like. You have police lockers. Some people have called those morgue lockers. They're not big enough to be a morgue locker. They're much more like police evidence lockers. And you have, in the map room, you have a war room with a map on the wall and a desk with documents, and you have some computers back there and stuff. That's not Leslie's. That's all Sebastian.
You were in the ambulance before it crashed, right?
Yes, we're lucky to be alive.
Have you seen anyone else?
My patient Leslie. I saw him running up ahead, but...
But?
Come this way. Quietly, mind you.
Me being as quiet as I can. Here, let me just break that for you.
Have a look for yourself. Those things chased me all the
Now
way
look at
into the
that.
village.
You want a difference in Akumu?
They're all over the place.
There's a false Ruvik right here.
Leslie went
You only have a
that
handgun.
gate.
So, you know, just
Good Lord.
be prepared.
Too many to shoot our way through.
Akumu's not just a one-touch
One of us
death
are going to
and
learn the
play
way
it on
while the
standard
other gets
mode,
the
but with
gate
one-touch death, it's
You're the one with the gun.
we're gonna throw you twists
you
and
say
turns all
so.
through. Okay, so we've now established that Sebastian and Leslie have this linked sanctuary. I don't think Sebastian understands that he's linked with Leslie, and I don't think he believes
There is
it's
a crank
a
on the
Leslie
terrace.
construct. He
You will
doesn't,
need to
at this
operate
point, he
it
doesn't really know
pass
what's
through.
going on. He just knows he looks at a mirror long enough, he winds up there. And you'll see that in some of the statements he'll say as he comes. He'll be like, "Oh, I knew it. I knew it was going to be here." It's like, well, of course it was going to bring you here. So in episode 2, Leslie showed him how to get into the sanctuary by showing him Nurse Tatiana outside of the sanctuary. She was literally in one of the buildings and walked through the mirror. That's how Sebastian learned to get into the sanctuary. So that's an invitation. That's a clear invitation. It's not that Sebastian is hijacking it or squatting or anything like that. He's invited in. And that's a calculated risk on Leslie's behalf. He's saying, I will provide you sanctuary, but you have to save me. And unfortunately, the real tragedy here is that Sebastian doesn't understand doesn't understand what Leslie has done. He doesn't understand his end of the deal is to save Leslie. Yes, he works to save Leslie, but it's he doesn't really understand what's going on, and that's kind of the tragedy of it, that Leslie can't explain it to him. He can only provide him what he provided him, and by giving part of his sanctuary away and merging it with Sebastian's sanctuary, Leslie no longer has a truly safe and calm environment. Even when he goes back to the environment, he will encounter the noisiness that is Sebastian. So now once the gates have been sprung and you've used the crank, they won't trip as you get close to them. Now, I was thinking I would go over there and I would do the part with Dr. Jimenez first, and I said, no, that's kind of silly. Let's go do the rest of the area first. So you saw the approach I took to coming down from upstairs with Dr. Jimenez. Don't come down this path, even though it would be much more direct to get here. If you do that, you will encounter, I think it's at least 4, maybe 5 different zombies instead of the 2 you encountered going the other way. And the 2 coming the other way are spaced out nicely. One gives you you already have an axe to kill the first one, and he gives you a torch to kill the next one. So it's just a no-brainer. Go that way, and don't ever go back the other way, because it doesn't matter. You can clear the whole area, and you go back and you step up in there, they will appear. So don't cause them to spawn in, if you will. Just stay away from that area. That's just my advice. I mean, I'm sure there are people that can handle it, but to me, 5 or 6 zombies and me only having a handgun, it gets very dicey very quickly. So now what I'm going to do here is, this is something I came up with, Jackie and I came up with. Our strategy, you saw the Ruvik out there. I only have a handgun, so I don't really have good equipment to get rid of the Ruvik. And you can hear a guy is already banging on the door. And this first guy comes. Sometimes he destroys the door, sometimes he just pushes it open. It depends on how noisy you were, how excited he was when he got to the door, I guess. But, one match, he's gone. If he leaves the door there, it's usually a little better. But if he doesn't leave the door, now our goal is to put another bale of hay up there and to lure Ruvik up here. And you'll be surprised at how effective this is. Now, obviously, if there's an axe, take an axe, but luring Ruvik, sometimes breaking this window is enough. If you can see him out there, you can often get him to come. Sometimes breaking windows on the longer part is enough. You can see that he's not anywhere in sight. So if I look down this way, I can see him there. He's kind of at the part of the barn. He starts to walk back and forth up there. So I'm going to try to draw him with a gunshot. Oddly, it doesn't hit anything, but it's like it's hitting this rail right here because he immediately knew. Okay, so now that I saw that he was coming this way, we'll go up here and get the Hale Bale. Since the door is already broken, you want it right in front of the door. And since he saw me, he's already calling out the lower hands. Now that's kind of scary, but if you light this up, the lower hands will come into it and they burn, and then he comes and he burns. So that's, to me, that's the safest way. It can be challenging because it can be hard to get Ruvik up there at the right time, and you certainly don't want more than one coming, because one blocks the other from getting on the burning bale at the same time. So now you see there that we talked about yesterday in chapter 2 that Reuben is an electrical vampire at the middle of the stem system, that he is using the electrical properties of the brain, the biochemical properties that produce electricity. He's harvesting that from the people that are pulled into the stem. And by pulled, I mean now that it's wireless, they don't have to be directly connected. Before they were directly connected, but as people are attached to the stem, he terrifies them, ramps up their bioelectrical energy, harvests it, and then they become husks. They become the haunted, the zombies that are walking around, kind of doing his will. he gives them a little bit of, if you will, programming to kind of hunt Sebastian, hunt the others. But mostly they're there just to create terror. He likes Sebastian and Jimenez and Kidman and Joseph because they don't just... The mental patients that he's been feeding on have just been consumed by the first touch. So he gets a little bit of electricity out of him and moves on. Sebastian and the others have a little bit more fortitude, or a little bit stronger, and his ability to terrify them produces much more power for him. Later on in the DLCs, you'll remember that Kidman puts together a note that says, every person that comes in, I get stronger. I will consume you. I will consume you too. And that's where I'm basing what he means by consuming. I'm going back to the Matrix with the bathtubs and the connection on the back of the brain, and that's what he's doing. He's using them as batteries, but he's basically draining their voltage to give himself power. He uses some of that power to make some constructs. So the haunted are just the kind of leftover husks that are running around, and they're doing, in general, his will. You know, that's why they walk in control and things like that. They're not just standing there, and they're not just always eating, but they are moving around with seemingly some purpose, and that's the purpose that Ruvik has set out for them. If you notice that when Sebastian then finds little pools, little jars of that green gel, what he's really finding is little caches of bioelectrical energy that Ruvik basically missed. And so he's picking up little pieces of that same bioelectrical energy that Ruvik has been using to make himself more powerful. Ruvik sometimes uses some of that energy to create foes. Like, you notice that when you kill a false Ruvik, you get a fair amount of gel out of that, thousands of gel. So that's not just residual energy left in a husk, like he gets when he kills a zombie. This is a good tactic here, to use a match on that guy and then an axe on that guy. It saves you a lot of shells. Again, since you only have a handgun and they're taking 5-6 shots, unless you can significantly hit the head, I'm just not a good enough shot to bank on hitting heads, so I tend to go center mass. So that's a good approach, is trying to walk up to one and burn it. That's going to wake the second one up, but you have an axe, use the axe on the second one. Anyway, okay, so we've established that Ruvik, as a bioelectrical vampire at the middle of STEM, is harvesting energy. Some of the husks, some of the haunted, have little pools of that energy left behind that Sebastian can harvest, as well as there are little caches, like here's a jar of the green gel. That jar is something that Ruvik missed. Now, I know you're saying, well, why is it a jar of green gel? It seems like really weird. But you got to remember that everybody's in here is contributing something in their subconscious to it. So what Sebastian is doing is his subconscious is recognizing there's something there that he can use as energy. You know, it could have been in the form of a power bar, or an energy drink, or something like that. He sees it as a jar of green gel. And so he picks up the jar of green gel, knowing that he can use that himself to make himself more powerful. Often if you jump in there right away, you'll draw some more. But if you throw this bottle over here, you're going to do two things. You're going to call one from upstairs, but one back behind those doors is going to hear that and is going to break through a window in the back and come around that way. The one coming from the back is going to explode, is going to kill itself on a bomb, a wire trap. The one that's coming down, sometimes you can hear like a banging on a door. There's a door kind of at the far end there, so I'm trying not to be seen. I'm waiting until I see this guy with the torch, and then as they're headed back up, there's a trap on the staircase. I'm going to try to use the trap on the staircase by getting over to... I've tried to go up behind him, but it just never worked, so just... And that worked. Got him to do some cartwheels. Now you hear that pop. That second pop was the explosion of the person coming through and hitting the bomb. Now you see that someone's come through that door because they heard the explosion that was the first one that went through the window. And here's the difference for Akumu for you is I'm thinking, okay, I'm waiting for the guy. I thought he saw me at the window, so I was waiting for him, but he doesn't show up. Okay, so back to our bioelectrical discussion. So Ruvik then expends energy to make some foes, like the false Ruviks, the Sadist that you're going to see as the boss fight in the next episode, as well as all the other bosses in the game. And every time you kill one of those, Ruvik has expended some of his bioelectrical energy into creating them, and you're going to harvest it directly from them. So those boss fights, winning a boss fight really hurts Ruvik. And watch how far this guy's chased me. He's chased me all the way from that other building out the window. All the way. He's going to come up the stair. He's going to come up that ladder. I mean, this is how persistent they are in Akumu. This never happens in survival or casual. They just never, I mean, they give up. I'm not that interested. But in Akumu, man, they are dead set on finding you. So unfortunately, what I had to do is I had to use one of my bales of hay here that I had set up to use against the Sadist at the end. So now I'm a bale short. It winds up not being a problem. But, well, I mean, it's a problem. But we wind up having a solution to it. So I'm trying to set this bale up so that when we let the boss at the end of the next chapter, at the end of the next episode, at the end of the chapter, we let the boss out. We kite him up here and use those bales against him, just the same way we did against the false Ruvik. So, okay, so now we know what the green gel is, and we know what the hospital is. We've talked about the connection with Leslie and the sanctuary. Leslie sees the upgrade chair, if you will. I don't have a better name for it, but the upgrade chair, he sees that as kind of a torture device where he was probably treated to some therapy. That's probably not the right word, obviously, but you know, shock therapy. And in that process, he keeps that chair as a reminder that the world's not safe, but he's safe in his little zone there. And Tatiana is his gatekeeper. He has used her to show Sebastian in chapter 2 how to get into the sanctuary. And in chapter 3, we just saw that she deemed Sebastian worthy of getting access beyond the counter. By giving him access beyond the counter, Sebastian now has his own safe zone that is attached to Leslie's safe zone. It feels like it's all part of the hospital, but really, if you look at those back rooms are clearly much more police station than they are hospital, with police lockers, police evidence lockers, and a war room with a map on a wall and documents and computers. So I think I feel very confident in that interpretation. Other people are obviously welcome to other interpretations of the game, but I feel very confident. I feel that I've hit on something that feels wholly consistent to the gameplay as well as the imagery that we're given. You notice we just got a shotgun, so now we actually have a weapon, like a real weapon. I know there's still somebody upstairs, and yep, and breaking that box called them down here. They have a gun. It's not always a female police officer, but it's often a female police officer with a gun. It's somebody with a gun. And so you need to be very careful of them. Don't let them see you. They are not Star Wars stormtroopers. They are dead eyes. They will shoot you with one shot if they can see you. So, and every shot's a death. So, don't let them see you. I wasn't sure how many more were up here. I know there's a sniper outside, and sometimes the sniper will have heard the box breaks or the death of the other one sometimes, so I'm being a little careful. Obviously, the reason we took the path that we did to the barn is the sniper never got to see us. There was never any contention about whether we would be able to make it past him shooting. Could have used the torch, but you know, when you can, keep the weapons like the torches available. And honestly, I was surprised. I just couldn't believe that everything had come through It took me a while to realize that when I threw that bottle, somebody came through the window and blew themselves up. And because of that, I still felt like there's got to be somebody left in the courtyard. And so I'm still sneaking around. And somehow I have a memory of this zombie waking up when we played on survival the first time. You pick up the crossbow, that wakes him up, and then you have to use the crossbow bolt to shoot him. And so I didn't want to do that, so burning. We play the game. The way the crossbow works is it can only hold so many bolts, but if you have one cocked, it doesn't count as in the count. So you can then go pick up another bolt. So by loading one in, we could pick that bolt up. Whereas before, you noticed when we went by it, it said we were full and we couldn't pick it up. That's a good trick at any level. You can't see. I'm still convinced there's got to be somebody by that gate, and I'm looking for him, but I just don't see him. It winds up there's not anybody there, but this is me being like, oh my gosh, I've gone a long time since I went to I've done a lot. I haven't saved. Be careful. That strategy is like, you could take it after every time you killed something, run back and save. I thought that might be a little too dull to watch. So I tried to do large segments. See, we cleared out. There was no real danger in the first part of it. We went and saved. That got us the documents. Oh, the things I wanted to say about the documents in the hospital. So the lobby is kind of a common area. If you think of it that way, Leslie would be mostly confined to rooms in the hospital, but he has a welcoming area for his visitor in the lobby, and he has Tatiana there as his sentinel to watch and make sure that Sebastian is worthy of access to the sanctuary.
Great. There's got to be something that'll get
in the
through
lobby
this.
is where
chainsaw or
Sebastian
something.
finds missing persons reports, newspaper clippings. That's him adding his subconscious is trying to clue him in on what's going on, and it's pulling up old newspaper clippings and missing persons reports that he's seen as a detective in the police force at Crimson City. And that's his subconscious saying these things are related to what's going on. He doesn't really get it at first, but you notice that like every time he picks up a missing persons report, it's somebody who recently or is about to recently die inside the stem. Now I'm pointing to this at the moment, but I'm not shooting it. I'm afraid it might call some people, but there's a key there, and I want to try to remember that it's there. So I think at this point I'm going to go back and save. But so those little hints that he gets in the lobby of the hospital are clues that his subconscious is trying to feed to him, saying these things are related to what's happening to you. You need to pay attention. Rarely do they prophesize what's about to happen. They more often kind of see. We'll give him like, this person went missing. See, I told you they just died in the stem, and see, I told you you'd seen a missing persons report about this, so you should have known they were going to die. All right, well, we're going to go back and we're going to do some more upgrades.
Worrying type, I see.
I know I haven't been talking about what we have been upgrading. We haven't had a whole lot of gel up until this point. So notice Leslie's real sanctuary is back behind there in the rooms. The foyer out here is the common area, and this is Sebastian's sanctuary with police lockers. People have called those morgue lockers. I don't think they're. I guess they're maybe big enough to be morgues, but to me they look like more like police lockers. They don't look deep enough, or maybe wide enough. And the things that he finds in them kind of make me think of police locker stuff, other than the goo. I mean, he's getting energy, but he might have an energy drink or something in there. But he mostly gets ammunition, and so they seem like police lockers to me. This part is the reminder to Leslie that not everything is fearful in the outside world, and to stay in the sanctuary. Sebastian sees it as some way of treatment, and so he can use it. He can use the bioelectrical energy that he picked up, that he scavenged basically from his foyer out there. And remember, we killed the false Ruvik, so we actually stole some energy from Ruvik himself because he had invested energy in that critter. You see the things that I'm upgrading. I'm thinking that the crossbow bolt becomes very, very powerful, the harpoon bolt. And for me, it may not be true for everyone, but even the top professionals, even the world record holders, have mentioned how bad the handgun can be, the accuracy on the handgun can be, that it's just it's kind of a crapshoot as to whether or not it's going to hit. Okay, well, those were our upgrades. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.